Hello, everybody. I'm Charlotte Watts, and welcome to this webinar on supporting immunity through digestion. I'm going to take you through some movements to support how our immune system and our digestion come together and how much we need to have this mobility through the whole digestive tract, through the whole torso and out to the limbs and our whole body. Before I take you through the movements, I'm going to just explain to you a bit about how those connections work, and to get an understanding of this part of us, our digestive system that is our central axis, our middle tract, and the importance of that, not just in terms of how we digest food, taking that which it nourishes us and let go of that which we don't need, but also how it has implications on the whole of our health and really relies on how we move for its health and the health of all other body systems. So just bear with me there. Put that on to slide mode. So a lot of this stuff I explain a bit more in my book, Yoga Therapy for Digestive Health. And we start here looking at, you can see this diagram of pretty much how your kind of average digestive tract, your average digestive gut sits in the body. It takes up a huge volume of our torso, reaching all the way from our mouth to our anus, about 9 meters of tubing there. And within that, the gut wall throughout that houses about 70% of the cells that make up our immune system. So it's an enormous component, and that which really regulates our immune system right from in the center. So those immune cells aren't just regulating immunity in the gut, but they are speaking to the whole of the body. So briefly speaking, our digestive tract moves that which we need into the body, the nourishment that we need for protective health, for immune health and all other function, and then allows us to eliminate, get rid of, eject that which we don't need or that which may cause us harm. So it's both that which comes into the gut and we want to get rid of. So at the moment, very obviously, people are more interested in that in terms of viral load, but anything as well, bacteria, yeast, and anything that is also going to put a strain on the system, is going to reduce our immune capacity. So it's not just getting rid of that which comes through the digestive tract, but that which we are getting rid of through each cell, all the waste products that come out to cells. And it's really important that that comes to its final moving out of the body, so that we have the space in the whole of the body to take on the nutrients and to have the optimal function we need for immunity and self-protection. So this is the gut-brain axis, which is a highly important part of the whole of our immune health. So it's how the gut and the nervous system are intrinsically linked, and how the quality of the bacteria within our gut environment signal back up to the brain. That helps to regulate our nervous system, and our nervous system plays a massive part in our immune health. So when we're constantly in fight or flight or stress responses in the nervous system, our immune system tends to be either dampened down in terms of our defenses, or we can't regulate it appropriately. We can tend to go more into inflammation, etc. And that's really important for people who do have pre-existing inflammatory responses, people who might have atopic conditions like asthma, eczema, hay fevers starting to come up now. So regulating both our nervous system and our gut by movements and practices that really help us come into calm has this whole effect, that also an immunity that also involves the nervous system and the gut. So these on our gut wall, see a little picture here of the microscopic parts of our gut wall. The main anti-inflammatory part of our immune system is housed in the gut wall within these immune antibodies called SIGA, secretory immune antibodies. And they are lowered by stress And they are also responsible for appropriate immune response. So you also often hear terminology like boost the immune system, or raise lower parts. But this is appropriate response, where the immune responses are raised when they need to be, maybe to fight off defenses, but then lowered when they need to be. So particularly if we've got caught up in something like an inflammatory response, which is a survival response. And on the gut wall, if we can care for and foster this gut environment through movement and through the nutritional part as well, which I'll be talking about more in the next seminar, then our immune system can modulate our responses from the gut out to the whole body. So it's how we signal from the gut out to the whole body for the immune system to have the regulation, the self-regulation in the best way that we can, to help us both to be resistant to stuff that comes in, invaders that come into the body, but also to help modulate any responses, reactions that are part of fighting off something that's coming into our body. So the mouth and the stomach are really key parts of the digestive our digestion, and they're key parts of our immunity as well, because where stuff comes in, and this part of the hygiene of not touching our faces and touching our mouths. There are huge amount of defense proteins in saliva, because there needs to be. It's our mouth is where so much of the outside world enters our body. Calm states allow us to produce saliva, and chewing, eating mindfully produces more saliva to keep the health of our environment. We also have a microbiome, a gut bacterial protection in our mouth. And stomach, then coming down to that stomach acid is what kills off any harmful bacteria and viruses, hopefully as many as possible before they enter into the body. And that also, the production of stomach acid also needs calm states, and it needs a lot of the movement through the diaphragm and through the stomach that we're going to explore in a minute. So eating mindfully, chewing, consciously eating, and freeing the jaw. So moving the body isn't just moving other parts and not the head, but it does include movement in the jaw, freeing space at the temples, and really helping our digestion all the way down by not having the tension up in the jaw that clamps down and can compromise digestion further down into the body. And oral hygiene is also a massive part of digestive function and supporting our immune defenses, and how our immune system is able to regulate throughout the entire body. So diaphragmatic movement is something we're going to come to as a key part of the movement practices. In terms of digestive health, the full movement of your diaphragm, and you can see here, the diaphragm is that upside down bowl shaped muscle at the bottom of the ribs. The full movement of that with breath is what helps to both pump motion through the digestive organs, and the organs are above in the chest cavity as well, helps to move out wastes through the body, helping healthy bowel movements, aids full digestion by moving the stomach, keeping all of the tissues in the stomach healthy through constant movement, constant fluid exchanges. It allows good detoxification that feeds into the gut by the liver on the right hand side, getting these movements, getting this pumping, not getting kind of stagnant through lack of movement. And it creates gut motility. So that's not just movement through the digestive organs, but of the gut wall itself, how things move through. So that's both how food moves through, but also how we regulate where the appropriate levels of gut bacteria are in the gut. So the lymphatic system is a really, really key part of our immune system. It defends the body against infection by taking disease-fighting cells, lymphocytes like T cells and B cells, to parts of the body where they're needed. And you can see by this diagram where lymphatic nodes and the whole lymphatic system is placed throughout the body, and there's a large component in both the abdominal cavity where the digestive tract lays, and up into these areas around the throat and the jaw. Again, so jaw freeing is really important. And in the gut lining, these sites of lymphocytes are called Peyer's patches. They're really, really key for our immune health from the gut wall. So we'll come now to some movement that gets into all of those facets. And I'm going to go through some basic patterns that we're going to do on planes. So different ways of being. So that might be laying on the ground, seated, up to stand. And I'm going to start showing you these on a chair to show how we can do these movements sitting. So coming up onto a chair is really useful for most body types. You can sit on the ground to do this, but sitting on a chair allows you to lift up through the front of the spine and takes any hip issues out of the equation. So you can see I'm sitting on the front of the chair here, so that I'm not slumping back. So modern postural issues like this kind of slumping really get in the way of all of those digestive components that we just mentioned. The diaphragm can't move very well here. We're dropping into our digestive organs, so they can't move as well. There's not as much capacity for space and movement and function into the whole of the digestive tract and the lymphatics. So we're going to come to a movement to start that is really key for having a pumping motion through the lymphatics and the diaphragm and getting fluid motion into the digestive organs and freeing up any tension that we can tend to hold into organs and into the spine. So coming to a simple spine undulation, we exhale to round the back and curl into the belly, letting the head drop. As we inhale, then coming to open the body, opening this space for the intestines at the front, dropping the shoulders, opening the collarbone here, and following that motion just behind your breath. So you exhale, round into the back, inhale, open the front body. And feeling here how the head and the neck follow. As you do this motion, let the lower jaw slacken. The space between the back teeth, soft in the eyes, so we can really let the nervous system drop fully into the breath. And even sighing out an ah sound with the exhalation. It frees up tissues around the throat. Ah. And releases the jaw. Lovely. Calming that back to center. I'm going to just shift to show you this one. You don't need to change your position. But we're going to come to a side spine undulation. So we've been moving forward and back through the spine. I'm going to place my hand onto the base of my skull, which is a useful position. If that's difficult for your shoulders, just bring your hands onto your hips or anywhere else that feels comfortable for you, even holding onto your shoulders. But we're going to come into sideways motion in the spine now. So I'm moving on to each sitting bone, and that sitting bone I'm moving on to, then lifting up the elbow from it. So we're lengthening the side body there. So we're moving into different directions in the spine, opening the side body, making space for the sides up through intestines, and also freeing a lot of that movement, particularly if you tend to just do exercise patterns like running and cycling, which are very forward and back. We also need these lateral side motions. Getting into the sides of the diaphragm. We can just get a bit fixated on the fronts of things, but we need to be looking at the sides as well. Lovely. So we'll come back to these motions on different planes. So you can incorporate these into your own exercise patterns in any way that feels right for you. You can come back and explore those. Bring your hands onto your thighs. Just let your breath settle in. Have some motions in the jaw where you rotate the lower jaw around like a buffalo chew. One direction and then the other. And I'm going to move back to the side. You don't need to, but just so that you can see here, we're going to come into a motion that's really key motion for supporting digestion, which is to come into a twist. So we'll move that side to side here, and you lift your arms as high as feels comfortable for you, and you're not bringing tension into the shoulders and the jaw. So you inhale up and then exhale towards a twist. Keep your feet planted, and you can even bring your knees and feet together so your legs stay in position and the twist becomes concentrated in and around the belly, the torso. And then inhale to center, exhale to the other side. Lovely, follow that just behind your breath, inhaling up, exhaling down. And anytime it feels right for you, to just hold and stay for a bit longer and simply let yourself breathe in. You can kind of pulse a bit there, come in a little, out a little. Softening the shoulders, softening the jaw wherever you are so you can access the feelings down into the belly and lifting up through the front of the spine for space around the diaphragm. We'll be coming back to center. And we're going to rotate around the diaphragm. So again, I will bring my hands behind my head. Partly it gives you an ability to see what I'm doing a bit better, but have your arms wherever suits you. So again, holding onto your shoulder caps is quite useful in this, or even bringing your hands into your heart. So wherever you come to, we do a motion that's as if you're circling the crown of the head, drawing circles on the ceiling with that, so that we're rotating around the whole of the diaphragm, getting into the sides of the body, different parts of the back, the lower back, freeing all those tissues that get pretty shut down by sitting on chairs. We do the same types of exercise pattern over and over again. This movement doesn't always get included so much. And then change that in the opposite direction. So all of these movements are also really useful to do if you're quite sedentary, if you're working from home and not moving about so much. Either do these on your chair or get up and do the standing versions, the same motions. Lovely, coming back to center. Having a few breaths there. And then moving the chair out of the way, I'm just going to show a few laying versions of the same movements. So bringing ourselves down to laying is something I might do at the beginning of a session. I just wanted to show you on the chair first. But laying down is where we really take tension out of the body because we're not holding ourselves up from the ground. So it's a very good place to allow ourselves to come into our belly. Also laying down here, all of the organs get to spread out. They get to soften out and find space simply by not having to be held up vertically. And also we soften channels where we hold a lot of stress down the psoas muscle, which is, we feel it most acutely, this area to the inside of the hip bone, to the upper thighs. We can hold a lot of our tension there. So that gets to soften. Opening your arms out to the side, have a wiggle through the shoulders. So they get to soften as well here. And we'll come to a laying spine undulation. So have your feet as far away from the bottom you feel you've got space in the lower back. And then we'll follow the same pattern we did before.
Inhaling to open the chest, tailbone goes to the ground. Exhaling to drop the waist to the ground, tailbone lifts. And then you follow that just behind your breath. So the inhale arches up. The exhalation, curling into the back body. And in this position, it's different to sitting. Just let the head and neck go where they go. Letting the breath come all the way to its end, conclusion. Inhaling to open out through the front of the diaphragm. Exhaling to open through the back of the diaphragm between the shoulders. Space between the back teeth, particularly as you exhale, and you can sigh out. Any noises, any releases really help to release tension that we hold around the digestion, hold around the organs. I'll be letting that come to settle. I would in your own time do that for a lot longer. It's one of those really key motions that we can have to free stress on any level. And then from here, we're going to come to just having a move of the hips side to side. So one knee can come a little forward of the head, the other can come further away. So essentially you're wagging your tailbone side to side. Keep staying in position. One knee moving closer to the head as the other most farther away. And we're having that side spine undulation. So this is also particularly good if you have lower back, just freeing up the fascia there whilst you're held by the ground. Those with digestive issues can very often have lower back issues and vice versa. So really letting yourself breathe and sigh out any tension that you're releasing from that area. And then coming back to center. We'll come to the twisting motion here, come to the rotating on a different plane in a minute. So here, we'll just let the knees come to the side into a twist and come back to center. And we'll inhale in here to the twist. So inhale the knees to the other side. Exhale back to center. So we can do the breath pattern the other way, exhaling in. But if we do it here, inhaling in, it's just a variation. Exhaling back to the center. We let the belly drop, it's a recoil back to center. And the inhale into the twist opens into the belly, arches into the back again. So it can also help undo any habits, tendencies of hunching down on chairs, opening, upper, back opening across the chest. Lovely. From there, let's roll all the way onto one side, just rest into a fetal position. So that's curling into softness into your belly. This position really registers trust, sense of safety, particularly as we feel ourselves held by the ground. And then pressing the hand of the top arm down. We're going to come to all fours here to do the rotating motion. This is a really useful motion to come to what we call visceral slide and glide, which means how the organs move against and around and between each other. So here on all fours, keep the shoulders fairly still as you start to rotate the tailbone. So you can imagine you're drawing circles on the wall behind you now with your tailbone. Breathing with this. So particularly if you're meeting stuff deep into the pelvis, deep into the abdomen, and on that often tight band of fascia connective tissue across the lower back. You can release the jaw here, open the mouth, even stick out the tongue and move it around. So you're moving into tissues, into the lymphatics, both ends of the spine, all the way down, deep into the groin, the abdomen, into the diaphragm, in and around the collarbones. Just let the head join in for a bit, so you do involve motion into the lymphatics around the throat. And then bring that back to still and change direction. So it's the other one I didn't specify. So it'll be the one that doesn't feel most automatic if you just let yourself go there. So again, starting limiting the motion in the shoulders, feeling that rotation and breathing in with difference, breathing in the fact that because our colon, our digestive organs are not symmetrical, and there's a direction the colon goes in, up the right hand side, across about the belly button, down the left hand side, then it can feel quite different inwardly, physically, as we move in these ways, one direction to the other. So it's not that we need to interpret or analyze that, it's just to be really present with different needs on different sides. You can really breathe, really tune in, vary the motion, slow it down, make it smaller as you need. Play with sometimes doing it smaller, sometimes larger. And then letting the head join in, so you can feel your digestive tract as part of your central axis. Really relate it to spinal movement. Feeling that release around the jaw and the base of the skull. Oh. And just sit back for a few motions. So you can either sit back onto your knees if that's comfortable, or up higher. And just breathing. Bring your hands onto your belly here. And then coming to stand. So this is just showing that we can do these motions on various planes. I'm just going to give you a bit more view of my whole body there. You can incorporate these motions in any way. So you can do these lunging, you can do them as part of any kind of routine you do, just punctuating them through. So when we come to standing, I'm going to show you this from the side so that you can see how we come to this spine undulation that we started with. So you can do this as deeply or softly as feels right for you. You're going to exhale, bend the knees, let yourself curl in as the head drops in. And with the inhale, press down through all four corners of the feet to open through the front body, the front spine. And follow that just behind your breath. So you're exhaling, reaching forward with the backs of the wrists. Inhaling so the palms open and you're letting the weight of the shoulders open the collarbones. Following that just behind your breath, exhaling in, inhaling all the way up. So as you inhale, you feel that space through the organs. And there's this pumping effect. We squeeze the organs at the front on the exhalation. And we open them to let fluids flood through. So it has this lymphatic pumping effect. And then coming now, I'm going to take my hands in the same position I did before, interlinking my hands at the base of the skull, bending knees here, so I've got the motion, and then just coming into that side spine undulation. There are many ways to do this. We might do it with kind of arms lifted in different ways, but any motion that then also just reaches into the side of the diaphragm, and that more fish-like reptilian motion is helpful. Lovely, letting the arms drop. Have your feet hip width apart so we can just swing the arms here into a twist. Keeping in my sound of my arms slapping, which is really good to wake up the lymphatics, getting around to the adrenal kidney area. And feeling with both feet on the ground here. So we can do versions of this movement where we shift weight with the other. But if you stand with both feet planted, this version moves a little deeper into the tissues, the organs in the abdomen. Lovely. I can start the day with that one. And we'll come to that final motion now where we rotate around. So as we did before, I'm going to do this with hands behind my head. Find if that's right for you to do that, shoulders you can, or hands into your heart, or even your hips. But I'm going to show you here with the arms out to the side. So we're rotating around. So keep the knees bent so that you can really regulate how your lower back is able to let you know where the motion needs to be, where you need to modulate. Keep drawing up through the belly, particularly as you lift to more upright positions. Lovely, and then through round to the other side. Breathing fully, let yourself express noises of autonomic nervous system release. Sighs, yawns, tingles, or an ah sound really helps to open the jaw, space around the tongue and throat. Lovely. Coming back to center. Let's just place our hands onto our belly again. Breathing in here. So when we loosen the diaphragm, we're able to more easily drop our breath down into the belly. Easily relieve stress, tension that we can hold around the whole of this area that ultimately compromises both digestion and immunity. So give yourself a little rub, rotating the arms up the right hand side, across the middle, right to left, and down the left hand side. So just following those motions of the colon. Really useful self-massage there. Lovely. Well, thank you. Hope that was helpful for you. I will just have a look into the Q&A, put my glasses on to be able to see that. So any recommended exercises for leaky gut? So one of the points about leaky gut is that it's compromise on the healing of the gut wall, and it is for those who don't know what leaky gut is, it's intestinal permeability, where there is space, there are junctions between cells, and usually anything coming into the body, coming into the bloodstream, needs to go through gut cells to get there. The gut is a barrier, like the skin is. It's an extension of our skin into the body. So that sweet corn that piece of sweet corn you might see in the toilet bowl. And if you haven't, I really do suggest just swallowing sweet corn to see that. That never technically entered your body. It never got fully broken down, moved across the gut wall, and then assimilated into your body via the bloodstream. So the point about leaky gut is things can enter more readily just straight between cells. It really relies on gut healing. So one of the things that we would do nutritionally for leaky gut is to really help health of the gut wall. And in terms of movement, we would do things like we were just doing then to help gut motility, to help movement through the gut wall, and then rest, which is where healing can occur, but also bringing circulation, bringing immune capacity, healing mechanisms to the gut wall. But also anything that really helps bring down any inflammation, any parts of the stress response that are being relayed through the gut. So it really comes back to being in calm states as much as possible, being in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is being as calm as possible, and in those feelings of safety. And I know lots of people in this whole summit have been talking about oxytocin and the need we have for touch.
So also that rubbing into the belly can really help as well. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion of this on in my book in much greater detail. Thank you, Nicholas. There is I've also got a book called Good Mood Food, and I'm going to be discussing more of nutritional facets of this digestion immunity on Saturday. But there are lots of resources out there, and I'll put blogs on my website for this as well. There's a lot of stuff out there. So Glynis says, I have a lot of gas, burping after meals, and intestinal wind, also IBS. There's several components to this. So some of them might be that food isn't being able to broken down fully, but comes back to chewing. It comes back to chewing as much as possible so that the digestion further down isn't compromised, doesn't have so much to do. It's very difficult to make up for the fact that we haven't chewed later on down the line, because digestive function really relies on as much surface area as possible, as much surface area for digestive enzymes and stomach acid to work on, so that ideally the food, when it's chewed, is as near to the liquid or mush as possible. And when it enters the small intestine, it should be about the consistency of pea soup. It's called chyme. Also, this diaphragmatic movement talking about is really important, partly for the health of the gut bacteria. So when we don't have that good motility, movement, and support of the microbiome, then we can tend to produce more gas in the gut. And also that movement around the tailbone and around the lower colon, or the lower abdomen, and all the lymphatics around there also help good elimination that stops that build up. So then another question is, when can one do these exercises? What time period to wait after meals? Now, it depends what you're doing. If you're laying down when you don't have to hold yourself up from gravity, so essentially when you're not putting the nervous system into action, into mobilization, if you lay down and do some really gentle stuff, it can actually help digestion. So those spine undulations, particularly if you feel after meals that things are a bit stuck, or you feel that there's a build-up or a distension around the diaphragm, kind of liver area, it can be really useful to just let yourself lay down, place your hands on your belly or your diaphragm, have your head supported as you need, so that you're not kind of lifting the jaw and compressing the base of the skull. You really want to feel that the jaw can be soft as well, and then just feel things out, so you can move between different types of undulations and just move around. Anything standing, wait a bit longer, so you can move through different planes, but you can feel it coming through. Really feel this stuff out, what's helpful, what's not helpful. It can be really good to do some sitting or standing stuff before you eat. That can really help give you the space and give you the kind of the wake up, the innovation of the digestive system to help. So thank you, Jean. My website is charlottewattshealth.com. So you can see I've got lots of resources there. And then thank you from Sharmila. What happens in the body to cause bloating? Many things, many things. One of the things that can happen is the lymphatics that I talked about don't just deliver immune components, they are also responsible for fluid exchange in the body. So the more we get moving through the lymphatics, and unlike the bloodstream has the heart's circulatory system to get it moving. The lymphatics rely on motor function. They're built for us to move, and we have a basic movement. Our most basic movement is walking. We need to walk, and we need to walk to get lymphatics coming up through the inner thighs and up through the lower abdomen, and then up through, moving fluids that get pulled down by gravity back up again. But also bloating can be about dysregulation of the gut flora, of the microbiome. the inherent bacteria within the gut. So moving things around gets that gut motility. But chewing as well, come back to chewing. If your food is not fully digested, then it can, it can putrefy in the gut, it can create more gas, and it can tend to food intolerance, because larger particles of food can get into the bloodstream where they're seen as an immune challenge. Thank you, Nicholas. What are your thoughts about walking after dinner to help digestion? Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? The usual constitution. I would definitely give it a while. Give it enough time for food to move through the stomach at least. Old style meals would have gone on for a long time. So after a dinner would actually have been after a period where we've been talking, we've been socially engaging, we'd have had all that oxytocin and calm nervous systems whilst we were feeling that safety of the tribe, and that would be part of how we digest. So after meals would be, maybe after quite a period of social engagement. But now I would at least leave it, say, 20 minutes. If you find digestion easier, if you find that things are a bit more sticky, it depends what type of walking you're doing. A gentle walk is very different to a march. If you're doing a march, I would leave it at least an hour. Something more gentle. If you feel it helps just get things moving, then 20 to 40 minutes. It's not very prescriptive. Again, we need to really feel in. Heartburn, indigestion needs diaphragmatic movement, and it needs full chewing, and it needs us to be eating in calm states. So sitting down to eat, chewing thoroughly. We can tend to get heartburn when the diaphragm doesn't fully move because the esophagus tends to get shunted forward. So the windpipe throat tends to get pushed forward and held in position, and that can contribute to acid reflux. Colitis there is an inflammatory bowel condition, so inflammation being held into survival stress response need us to come down into calm states, into these healing rest and digest parasympathetic tone of the nervous system. So the more you can do within any type of practice, mindfulness, breath practices, embodied awareness practices, to allow yourself to come into calm states, that can help to come back down off the inflammatory flare-ups of colitis and the kind of the root behind it. Lovely. And I have one last question, or no, just a couple. I will try and get through them quickly. So how does digestion influence bad skin or things coming out on the skin as I'd see them? Often things come out in the body from the inside out. So we often see in naturopathy, functional medicine, nutritional therapy, we see the skin as the second largest organ of detoxification. So supporting digestion is one of the things that we would do absolutely in the first instance for skin issues, where things are either coming out in an alternative route of detoxification. Particularly, you might see that where things aren't being eliminated through fully or thoroughly, but also it might be inflammatory stuff or lowered healing mechanisms that are also part of the stress response, and that whole relationship between the digestion, the immune system, and the skin. It says they're considering a low sugar, healthy vegan diet is followed. I would, if skin issues are happening there, I would look at reducing grains. I tend to quite low grain, definitely low wheat and gluten, but other grains as well can really be the issues with skin conditions or issues. And Belinda, thank you for thanking me. So movements to help relieve symptoms associated with internal hemorrhoids. Anything that we were doing there that moves the lymphatics around, gets things going around the lower colon. So standing stuff and moving the tailbone. So you can rotate the tailbone in air. I'm doing it right now, in fact, in any situation, any position at all to get those going. What I would also say, Squatting motions help. They help because that's our natural defecation motion, but also have a squatty potty. So that is where you raise your feet up from the ground about yay high. So it's so your knees are above your hips and you can lean your torso forward. So you have like a squatting motion on the toilet. Cultures that sit on toilets in a sitting motion rather than a squatting motion tend to have hemorrhoids, varicose veins, higher blood pressure, and herniation, which are symptoms of pushing down, bearing down, pressing down into veins. And it can create clamping of the jaw and a whole lot of tension and stress in. So squatting motions help, but also coming into squatting positions on the toilet, so you're not putting undue pressure onto the lower tissues and having to push. We easily have a bowel movement in a squatting position because there's a tendon that pulls the rectum across, and when you come into a squat, that is released. You don't have to strain to squat, and that is massively implicated through all of digestive issues, not just for people with hemorrhoids or varicose veins or herniation. Is really how we all need to be having a relationship with our digestion where we're not feeling stress in there, and that has a massive implication on immunity, which obviously at these times we really want to be supporting. So thank you all of you for attending. Thank you for your excellent questions. They really kind of covered the gamut of what I wanted to say here, and hopefully you can join me then on the next portion I'm doing of this, where I will talk about the nutritional stuff, and you are free to send me more questions then. So that is 10 a.m. Saturday morning, and hope to see you then, and hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. Thank you. Goodbye.